Hello and welcome to The Bottom Line on TVP World, where we unpack some of the main business and economic stories of the day. I'm your host, Marie Cato. Can a company in an allied country unilaterally cut access to some essential service provided to another country? Recent comments on X about Starlink made by Elon Musk made this perspective uncomfortably realistic and forced a reality check for European countries relying on the US for space services. Let's tune into the feature our reporter Jan Kennedy prepared for us today.
This is a Starlink terminal. It's connected to one of the 7,000 satellites orbiting the Earth. Since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion, Starlink has provided war-torn Ukraine with internet access used by civilians, the government and the military, most notably for reconnaissance drones. But on Saturday, Elon Musk, Starlink CEO and a close associate of US President Donald Trump, said via X that Ukraine's war effort could be hampered with just one click.
I literally challenged Putin to one-on-one physical combat over Ukraine, and my Starlink system is the backbone of the Ukrainian army. Their entire front line would collapse if I turn it off.
Given the recent and abrupt cut-off of Ukraine from Washington's military aid, this sounded like a threat and prompted a response from Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski, which spiraled into an online brawl. The spat ended with US Senator Marco Rubio claiming that there is no immediate threat of Ukraine losing access to Starlink, but uncertainty remains. This is because, as of now, Europe's alternatives to Starlink are extremely limited. The only company that provides a similar service is Eutelsat. However, the company's solution, called OneWeb, lags significantly behind Starlink, also in terms of its use on the battlefield.
Antennas are larger, about 70, even 150 centimeters in diameter. They are heavier also. So those are the major differences which influence also the bandwidth. In case of Starlink, it's higher. Same with latency. The delay of signals, it's lower in case of Starlink.
But the most important problem is the number of satellites. OneWeb currently has less than 700 crafts in orbit, compared to around 7,000 operated by SpaceX, the number which is poised to double in the coming years. At the same time, the European Commission wants to develop another constellation called IRIS². But with 300 satellites, it would also be much smaller than Starlink, which is strange because the numbers say there is a business case for a Starlink competitor. SpaceX's service brought the company around $8 billion in 2024 and is projected to earn almost $12 billion in revenue this year. And the markets seem to be of the same opinion. Over the past month, the share price of Eutelsat has nearly tripled in value. The lack of a Starlink service is even more perplexing given that Europe excels in other space developments.
We have several programs and projects where Europe is leading. I take the navigation program Galileo as one example, where we have the most accurate signal in the world, which is produced from the Galileo PNT satellites.
But in terms of the development of rockets, SpaceX has wiped out Europe's once undisputed lead. SpaceX's flagship Falcon 9 rocket has launch costs that are less than half the price of the Ariane 5, Europe's prime space workhorse. Additionally, due to its reusability, it was launched more times in the past year than the ESA's rockets in nearly 3 decades. The European Space Agency's new Ariane 6 rocket, which embarked on its maiden voyage last week, was dubbed a potential competitor to the Falcon. However, challenges in further development persist.
The innovation system of US is much more competitive, is just better. In Europe, there's a lot of bureaucracy, and private investors are reluctant to invest in very risky businesses like Elon Musk did.
Although Europe has been willing to take on more risks when it comes to space endeavours, There's a long way to go, but now the US may have provided a necessary nudge in the right direction.
Now that Elon Musk has positioned himself close to the US president, Europe has begun to talk more about strategic autonomy in space, and satellite constellations like Starlink have become an essential part of that. To tell us more, I'm now joined in the studio by Paweł Wojtkiewicz, president of the board of the Polish Space Industry Association. Hello, and thank you for joining us in the studio. So, if there was anything that brought attention to Poland's top diplomat, it was that recent Starlink spat between Radosław Sikorski and Elon Musk. What does that signal in the context of the top geopolitical issues that we're grappling with now?
Well, I mean, a part of this discussion, now we know, but we know it before as well, that we rely on the one provider for the satellite telecommunication with this capacity, and well, it's a good signal for the European industry, and important signal that we have to try to build a similar system, or at least something which in like a short term could replace the Starlink, if in case there will be like a rapid shutdown. But to be honest, I don't believe that it will be the case, because I mean, at least for the Starlink, they have like a customers in all over the world, so they are very interested in the revenue. It doesn't matter what is the policy behind, but at the end, this is the company, and they have to pay a lot of attention on the revenue.
So income, money is the most important thing. It seemed like very much an off-the-cuff comment, knowing Elon Musk, but it has to be said that even at the lowest of the lows between the relations of the US and Russia, there was always some kind of cooperation. There was always some kind of space cooperation between the two superpowers. But nonetheless, that comment from Elon Musk caused a lot of havoc. And it seems like that dependency on American goods and services is causing a lot of anxiety, don't you think?
But in Europe, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, especially in the high-tech industry, we rely on the US technology a lot. We rely on the Chinese resources a lot, and I mean, the current geopolitical situation should change our way of thinking how the European industry should develop in the next couple of years, 10 years, maybe 15 years. We need to develop the technologies, and we have to reach an independency from the US industry, not only US industry. We need to be, as a Europe, independent. And this is the goal which was set up by the European Commission, and also the goal which was set up by the European Space Agency. And it is clear right now for the European industry that, for example, in the telecommunication market, Earth observation market, navigation and access to space, let's put it this way, we need to be independent.
But Europe really needs to buckle down and focus, because that, regardless of the events from last week, defense includes very strong communication from space. So Europe really needs an equivalent of Starlink. So something that is competitive in its qualities is essential. What are your thoughts on that in terms of where Europe stands?
Okay, in the short term, to be honest, I mean, there is no, good alternative for the moment in Europe, in the world, I would say. But we have, like in Europe, the initiatives, initiative one, which is called IRIS², which in the next couple of years can be like an alternative to the Starlink. But it is clear that for the moment, especially in the battlefield, the Starlink is something which is needed. But IRIS² is a huge program, could be a huge program, and a lot of companies in Europe, and I believe that the governments are put a lot of attention on that program. And I'm also working for the company which is involved in this dialogue with the European Commission. And well, I think that we are on good track. as a Europe industry to set up this program. Of course, we have like a lot of obstacles in the middle, but I think that at the end we'll reach an agreement at the level of Europe to develop and to start this program. Apart of that, we have also the initiative which is GovSatcom, and this is the special satellite communication dedicated to the governments. Poland can join to this initiative, and I hope that we'll do it in a short way. But there is also like an initiative which we call GovSatcom Hub. And this is like a marketplace for the satellite telecommunication providers. And even Starlink is there, will be there. I mean, my company, GMV Group, is responsible for the development of this GovSatcom hub. And the purpose of this initiative is to have the marketplace where the governments can buy the capacity of the satellite telecommunication from the different providers, including Starlink as well, but not only. So this is another initiative in Europe. We can also mention OneWeb, which is like a good example, of course, but the main factory of the satellites is in US. Mm-hmm. But the service itself is managed by by OneWeb company, Eutelsat, right now, which is based in UK. But in the longer perspective, it can be a good alternative for the Starlink.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned IRIS² and Eutelsat OneWeb, and I'd like to pick your brains about that, because there seem to be mixed feelings about OneWeb, because I read an interesting article by Eric Berger in Ars Technica, who is very skeptical about what OneWeb can actually provide. He seems to he's written a whole book about it, but he seems to be very, very skeptical about its technical abilities. So I wanted to hear your opinion about what technical challenges stand in the way of OneWeb actually replacing Starlink. Can it actually replace Starlink?
Well, I mean, first of all, the access to the communication. I mean, as we heard a couple of minutes ago, the Starlink, they have like 1,000 of satellites on orbit, and OneWeb is like 500.
But does it have the potential, the technical potential?
Yeah, I mean it is, but it's really connected. I mean the orbit of the Starlink and the OneWeb is quite different. OneWeb is way above Starlink. Let's put it this way. And then the latency of the signal is much more higher in the OneWeb than Starlink, which is like a crucial for the internet communication. So this is the really important. And also Starlink is offering the direct communication to the mobile phones. So this is also like something which we have to for sure improve. And then of course, the development of the satellites, the number of the satellites, the access to space, of course, and then because the OneWeb should fly on the European launcher providers, and then Starlink is using Falcon 9, right? Mm-hmm. So it is, and we know from the past the problems with the Ariane launchers. So everything. It seems that everything is against European capacities in that domain, but we are not really far. I mean, I would say we are not really far from the technical point of view, from the Starlink, but we need like a huge money which stand behind Starlink right now.
Where do we get that money from?
I mean, there is. I think that according to all the reports which we can read about the European economy, we have those money. I mean, in Europe, but we have to spend them in a smart way. I like a few days ago. I wrote the information that Europe is transferring to US 300 billion euros per year for the investment. It means that we have those money and we can invest those money
somewhere else.
Yes,
somewhere better.
Exactly. So this is the point. I don't think so that there is no the problem of the budget of the money, but the way how we are spending them.
Interesting. On the other hand, there are some ideas that Europe can really entertain the idea of Eutelsat becoming that alternative to Starlink in the future, in not so far future actually, because the CEO of Eutelsat actually had an interview not so long ago, and she seemed very, very confident about where they were heading. They have the resources, they have the partnerships, they have the stocks. They're already based in Ukraine, and they can provide more in a very short time. I don't know whether you agree with her. Do you think that this is realistic?
Yes, but it depends on the requirements of the client. Okay, and I had like an opportunity to hear like a presentation provided by the Ukrainian representative of the army about the satellite communication, and that was like clear that in the battlefield for the moment, I mean battlefield in the front line, they need like robust satellite communication, and only Starlink for the moment is able to provide that. But he said that in the near future, or at a strategic level, they can use other providers. So, I mean, there is a space for sure for Eutelsat, for OneWeb, but we need a time to build something like Starlink, which will be able to support the troops which are on the front line.
Just as we wrap up this part, why hasn't Europe focused on developing its own version of Starlink? And when I say why hasn't Europe focused, I mean, why is it 2025 and we are where we are right now?
Okay, I mean, first of all, we are discussing right now the telecommunication, but Europe is really strong in other areas, like for example, Earth observation, like for example, satellite navigation. We have our own system, which is really, which is used by European industry, which is Galileo. We have in Europe our own big program, which is called Copernicus. We have a lot of companies, even in Poland, able to provide Earth observation satellites. So, I mean, we are talking about the satellite communication, but in the other fields, we are quite good. We are competitive, and even in some areas, we are even stronger than US, I would say, especially in the domain of the Earth observation.
Okay, so you provide a more balanced view of where we are. I just wanted to ask about Ariane 6. 50% more expensive than Falcon 9, but not reusable. How do we boost the efficiency of this?
That's the good question, and this is not the question of today. We raised this issue many times in the past. So this is the problem of this is my opinion only. This is the problem of the approach to the overall market related to the access to space. In US, we have like a more private investors in that area. In Europe, we still keep that competences close to the governments, and maybe that this is one of the reasons. Of course, behind of this, and we have to still keep it in mind that US government, they are spending a lot of money for the development of the space programs and defense programs. You cannot compare this with the European budget, the Chinese budget, or Russian budget. I mean, they are spending a lot of money. With this kind of budget, they can build complicated program. They can build competences in the different areas, including access to space.
Okay, so it's a little bit of a political and investment issue as well that has to be reapproached.
Yeah, I mean, the European governments and the European Commission as well, they have to convince the private capital to invest in the space sector.
Okay, and just very, very briefly, what does Polish space bring to the table in the current situation we're in? Well,
I mean, we are quite advanced after more than 10 years in European Space Agency. We have in Poland like companies which are able to provide satellite platforms, payload, software for the processing of the data from the satellites. We have really smart engineers in Poland, and we are entering right now in the period where I think that the Polish space industry will be one of the, I mean, not a big player, but we are like a mid-cap right now in Europe.
Okay, brilliant. Paweł, thank you very much for joining us. And we were joined by Paweł Wojtkiewicz, President of the Board of the Polish Space Industry Association. Thanks so much for being with us today. I was your host, Marie Cato. Join us every weekday afternoon for The Bottom Line at 5:10 CET on TVP World. And for the latest in regional business, follow us on X and on tvpworld.com. And for more news and analysis, stay with us on TVP World. Goodbye.